Thank you, and welcome to Project Review Committee for March 17th, 2023. We're gonna start today's PRC meeting at 1:37 PM. I'm gonna go ahead and start with roll call here with city staff. As mentioned, my name is Oscar Cepeda. I'm the associate planner here with the Community Development Department. We're joined by Rocio Mejia, the assistant planner here with the city. We're also joined by Javier Sanchez, the Engineering and Project Management Director. We're also joined by Rob Alvarez with the Water Division. I'm sorry, Joe Baeza, Joe Baeza joining us. And then also joining us, Clayton Dignam, our fire marshal with our fire department. And also Jeff O'Neill, our city planner. Javier Sanchez, our engineering and project management director. I think I mentioned that. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and move on with oral communications. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on any matter pertaining to project review.
Just me. Greg Sheldon, 88 North Wilford Drive. Hey, are we gonna take questions later? Or I don't know what my questions are until later. Are we gonna maybe open it up a little later if I have a question? Somebody? Is it a no or is it a maybe? Javier?
It's-
You hearing me?
What's, I guess just, do you know what questions you may have?
No, man, I don't. I'm just gonna make sure that whatever we do, Javier, we stay consistent with it. I don't want any, I wanna make sure that whatever we do is good, that we don't change the rules.
Mhm.
And whenever I ask for something, I wanna make sure that everybody gets the same treatment. That's all I'm asking for, but I'll try not to keep too long, but I don't have any questions right now. Right now, it looks pretty straightforward to me, but we'll see what'll happen. And I'll ask it, you can answer it or not answer it, we'll find out later. All right?
Okay. Sure.
All right.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public at this time? Oh, and with that, we're joined by Michael Nye here, our Public Works Director. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close oral communication. So for today's agenda, we have two items. We're gonna start with the first item on the agenda, which is Project Review Committee number 2023-016 for applicant Charles Ramirez. Requesting the process or procedure for city municipal services. Let me pull up the area here. Perfect. Let me share my screen here. So the subject site is located at 2204 West Castle Avenue at APN 243-330-031. It's currently developed with a single-family residential home. It is our understanding that there's been a parcel map approved here
Yes.
for the property through the county of Tulare, in which subdivided the existing property, 4.87 acres, into 4 total parcels. With that, the property is in our urban development boundary. It is adjacent to the city limits here to the south. We have the property pre-zoned as RS1, which is our very low density residential zoning. It has a general plan land use of low density residential. As far as the process for city municipal services, the city does have an application for that. To receive those services, the property would have to go through an annexation application. As outlined in the city's policy and procedures that was established under resolution 74-2014 and 75-2014, and then amended under resolution 19-2016. As far as connecting to those services, such connection cannot be made unless the city authorizes an annexation and or processes an extraterritorial service agreement pursuant to the city's annexation and municipal services policies. All water services connections shall comply with all applicable codes. As far as the annexation area, if you were to proceed, we did reach out to Tulare County LAFCO, and in which we did get support. Again, if you decide to move forward, to include just the subject site of that project area. As far as fees associated with annexations here, it'll be considered a minor annexation. The fee of that for the city's process is $1,835. Of course, there's also LAFCO's process, which they have their own fees associated with that. It will require an environmental review for the project. And any future development of the properties, again, if it moves forward with the annexation, complying with the Porterville Development Ordinance, as far as, again, the development of those parcels. With that, that's gonna be pretty much planning's comments. Unless Jeff, if I left anything out.
No, you're fine.
With that, we'll continue on to the other departments with Javier Sanchez, the Engineering and Project Management Director.
All right, thanks, Oscar. For engineering, we have a few comments. With water being right there at the end of the cul-de-sac, it's a 12-inch line installed by the school. We would require connection to that water line. Sewer is also available closer to the south end of the school, and that would need to be extended to serve those properties. And because of the parcel sizes and the potential units that can be built, in addition to in talks with fire and refuse about emergency and refuse vehicle access, we would need a wider vehicular access than shown on that map. In essence, it would need to be a city standard street, which requires 56-foot wide right of way. And those improvements that go with it, so curb gutter, sidewalk, street lights, and those can be developed as each building permit's pulled, except that turning radius, if they're not done close together, that bulb may have to be redone a few times if they develop an order, let's say, parcel 2, then parcel 3, then parcel 4. But the improvements could be done all at once as well, so we can just see how that phasing goes. But other than that, that's what engineering has on this project.
Thank you, Javier. Next with fire department with the fire marshal claim.
Just mirroring what Javier said as far as fire department access. Again, the fire department really has no comment for the annexation portion of this or connection to the city services. It's basically that we will be reviewing these as they are developed and the requirements at that time, depending upon what fire code is adopted.
Thank you, Clayton. Next with Michael Knight with Public Works, if any comments.
No comments this time. No objections to the annexation or the service. Just we would review the connection point and service lines extended to the service addresses. And then continue to review the development of access for refuse vehicles.
Thank you, Michael. Next with Joe. No comments?
Yeah, I have no comments, thank you.
Of course. And these comments will be provided in the letter for the all right, thank you, Joe. That's pretty much all comments from staff at this time. Does the applicant have any questions for staff?
I mean, really,
Want the city, right?
hmm,
You didn't want to get annexed into the
No.
city, no.
no,
Yes,
we
it's
don't
county.
want to be annexed in. We just want to be able to put the wells in. I mean, that's our biggest thing. It's already got an existing well there. And everything outside of that, including the houses right behind it, are all county. And so we just want to be able to put 3 additional wells in on the property. On each lot, each new lot, yeah.
I guess I could speak to that a little bit. I guess if you're asking for a response, Oscar, I see the blank stare. So I would just go to acknowledge, as the permit comes over from the county, in this request, the city would not issue a will not serve letter. The city would be willing to serve contingent on meeting the project requirements.
Couldn't quite hear him.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give you a will not serve.
My hearing is not the best as it is. But that,
You want to repeat that, Mike?
Yeah, no problem. I didn't realize the speaker had died in the room. So essentially, this process, when it comes over for review, the county sends over a well permit or a request of a customer requesting service by well. And the city, being the jurisdiction of utility providing service, the city would, in this case, and in this project, would not provide a will not service letter for the property. We would service the property. We can accommodate the extension of service for both water and sewer and refuse service. So there would be no protest to provide service to the development should you meet the requirements of the development.
I'm still having a hard time hearing. I apologize.
So saying that you'll provide the water and the sewer,
Yes. And
but,
refuge,
and we'll stay county? You gotta get annexed in.
that's the process. So to receive the utility, you would annex in.
Okay, so we don't want utilities, we just want wells.
So it'd be contingent on the well permit. So if the county, the county goes to the city to request, will you serve this property? In lieu of providing, in lieu of drilling a well. And the city's response to that is essentially through this process is yes. The city will not provide a will not serve letter for this development. We would be willing to supply services for the development.
They won't. But they will, but you gotta go into the city limits, got to annex in.
No, not a.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, again, if, as Mike stated, due to the property being in our urban development boundary, right, next to city limits, next to city infrastructure, in this case, water and sewer, we cannot deny an application or a request for those services. Of course, we have a process to go through an annexation, and our council would evaluate the application. For some reason, if it doesn't move forward, either by vote or by public comments for the annexation not being approved, our council is our discretionary body in which they may evaluate an extraterritorial service agreement, but it would still go through that process. But of course, it would have to be at discretion of our council to provide an extraterritorial service agreement if for some reason the annexation doesn't get approved or gets voted down. But that would be the process to go through that annexation application. And at the end, they'll have that discretionary
My
approval
question,
process.
Oscar, would be, everybody, has been aware of this because we've been working with the county for over a year and a half to do it, and you two communicate, why wasn't this communicated? This piece communicated either by them or you guys to us regarding, being on the boundary,
Oh, yeah,
so, because, and we've got a final map. I mean, it's done. We can work on our APNs, but, the city's, of course, holding up another project. I mean, we could have three more homes built in the next year. And
yeah, to
instead,
that,
we're gonna sit here and,
of course, myself were recently aware of this project in which this question was brought up to our team here. Yeah, normally we should be in contact with the county when there's projects being presented, specifically bordering jurisdictions. That way we'll have some comments to provide to the applicant. Again, not sure what took place here. We could go back and do some research, what took place a year, 2 years ago, as you mentioned. But from my standpoint, we just were aware of this project here in the last few weeks, in which this was brought up to the
when
team.
we brought in the permits for when they came to pull, or they're pulling the permits,
yeah,
that's basically when all this stopped.
for the wells.
For the
Okay.
wells,
Going over.
yeah.
Yeah, again, we could go back and see, do history on our search on our end. But yeah, as mentioned, we just were aware, myself recently in the last month, in which we scheduled this meeting with you guys. That way we could present these comments of what could take place or what's the process in the future.
Okay, so we really make the current well deeper
And deeper and feed all the houses with it.
and feed all the houses? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, as stated previously, we'll gather each department's comments on the letter and then we'll provide it to the applicant. And that way, if you do choose moving forward, having that information.
Okay, Oscar, we appreciate it.
Right, well, thank you, sir. Thank you. With that, we're gonna go ahead and move along with our second item on the agenda.
I'll have a question for you later. You guys wanna-
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Keep in contact. So for the second item we have on the agenda is Project Review Committee number 2023-016. For the applicant here, Porterville Irrigation District, also with the Tulare Basin Water Foundation. Let me pull up the project here. And I believe we have Charlotte here with us representing the applicant.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hey. Okay, so I'll start off with planning's comments. Of course, similar situation here. As the previous project, the property is outside city limits. But it is within the city's urban development boundary. Located at 22086 Avenue 160. The applicant is requesting the process of procedures for the annexation of property and for the future development of a community water fill station. The subject site's pre-zone designation is medium density residential. And it does have a general plan use of a commercial zoning, which is neighborhood commercial. So similar comments here, as far as the city's process and procedures. Any request for city municipal services would have to process an annexation application as referenced in the city's procedures established under Resolution 74, 2014 and 75, 2014, and then future amended in Resolution 19, 2016. Such connections cannot be made unless City Council authorizes an annexation or an extraterritorial service agreement pursuant to the city's annexation and municipal service policies. All water service connections shall comply with all applicable codes. As far as the annexation area, we did get support from LAFCO to process just the subject site. As far as the development there, we do show that the, let me pull up the other one. The proposed driveway for access to the field station is being proposed as DG. The Porterville Development Ordinance under section 30410D surfacing for non-residential development. It does require for parking aisles and access drives that are used on a daily basis shall be asphalt, concrete, or concrete paving. As far as the process, it will require, as stated, an annexation. And of course, a zone change in which staff could speak with our zoning administrator as far as outlining those fees for the applicant. The use would fall under a utilities minor, which is a permitted use under the neighborhood commercial zone district. Of course, it will require an environmental review of the project, in which our environmental consultant would review the project and make that determination. And that's all the preliminary comments from planning, unless there's something that our city planner would like to add. No?
No, well said.
Thank you, Jeff. With that, we'll move it along here with our team. Starting with, we'll start with Michael Knight.
Yeah, just from the engineering side, Charlotte, the only comments that I've received from Javier, he had to step away to another meeting, was the need for an irrevocable right for easement. So there's an easement that will need to be provided for the extension of Henderson Avenue at a later date for that project. So as you can see in the aerial, can you go back to that aerial?
Oh,
footage?
yes, of course.
As you can see, the right of way for Henderson is going to encroach on the property a little bit. So one recommendation is to move the filling station back as well to maintain that easement for future development. And then no comments other than the backflow device for the service, and we've kind of internally talked about that with staff there at Four Creeks. And that's all the comments I had for it.
Thank you, Michael. Next, with fire department. With Clayton.
So is this like the equivalent of like water drops or the water filling stations that we see with ice and water? Is it
No,
gonna be
it's
structure?
it's less than that, Clayton. It's more of a it's a like a table with a tap, so somebody can bring their igloo and fill up their igloo or a 5-gallon jug at no cost.
Okay, so there's no building or structure associated with it?
It would be and I don't mean to speak for you, Charlotte, but just to provide from the conversations we've had internally, it would be kind of like a 2 posts on each side with a shade structure, shade over the top, like maybe an 8x8 or something like that, of a shade structure to keep the sun off the stainless steel.
My only concern is that, you know, this is the time when they make improvements for us to extend utilities to underserved areas. Because this is a commercial application on a property that's currently being used for commercial, it's not, you know, it's not a residential property, even though the zoning allows it. It would typically trigger for me to require a fire hydrant at the 300-foot spacing requirement, because their west property boundary is beyond 300 feet from the existing hydrant on Henderson. So, but if there's no structure necessarily, then I wouldn't trigger that. I was under the impression, or at least had the impression, that it was going to be one of those small buildings.
Are you gonna go to the aerial footage in Terabella?
Yeah.
It's right on the curve. North. Right there.
Okay. Technically, that's a structure. It's more than 120 square feet or less.
I wouldn't say that would be 10 foot by, it may be 10 foot long, but I don't think it's 10 foot out because a 2x4 or 2x6 normally wouldn't span that far.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it's not, as long as it's not triggering a building permit for the structure, then I'm not gonna require a fire hydrant.
Okay.
So, yeah, okay, I have a better understanding now. I had something completely different envisioned in my head, so. Yeah, if that's the case, then it's not gonna be, there's not gonna be anything from fire.
Thank you, Clayton. I believe that's all from staff. Is there any questions, at this time, Charlotte? As mentioned previously on the other project, we'll gather the comments from all departments here in the letter in which we'll mail it out to the applicant and also email you a copy, electronic copy of those comments outlining today's meeting and the process moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're gonna go ahead and end today's project review committee at 2:08 PM. Thank you, everybody.